How's it going, man?
Oh, fantastic. We're on a roll with these shows. How many? We've been cranking them out.
Yeah, since we started going twice a week, I think this is like our seventh show.
Whoa!
Yeah, it's pretty
Rack them up,
exciting.
rack them up, rack them up.
Yep. So Tuesday, Thursdays every week. Thank you guys so much for keeping this going and making it possible. We can't do it without you, and we've really, really been enjoying it. Tons of news to keep us going, which has certainly made it pretty easy lately. We'll see what happens when everything dries up. We'll talk about this later, but considering the fact that Warner's can apparently only afford to put out 2 more movies this year, I don't know that we will see as much news because they're certainly not going to be announcing things for a while.
That's what DC's best known for, is just announcing things.
Just announcing things, yeah. It's, you know what? It seems like you never appreciate what you have until it's gone, DJ. You know,
That's true.
like I
Just like
always made
morphine.
fun of them for that, but it was like the gift that kept on giving. It was like this well that you could always drink from. It's like if you didn't have something to talk about, you could just look up like what DC superhero movie has Warner's announced this week that we'll probably never see. You know, because like 80% of them never end up happening. It's like there's like 4 Joker movies, and you know you're gonna have a Wonder Twins movie, and you're gonna have Black Adam. Oh wait,
Yeah, Black
no,
Adam
that actually is happening. Okay,
Yeah, but it only took 17 years to make.
That's true. That's true. So that's not going to happen anymore because apparently Warner's and Discovery are really hurting for money, which is a thing that I don't guess I fully appreciated as being a big reason that a lot of things have been canceled recently, DJ. We haven't been talking enough about the monetary side of this, I guess, but I guess I didn't appreciate it, or didn't get how much of the issue was that, just because, of course, Zaslav's not talking about that as much. He's trying to, put on a game face and make it a lot more about quality, his favorite word, and my favorite word that he said, and he likes to talk a big game about new strategy and how much things are going to be better moving forward. But you have to remember the COVID of it all, of course. You gotta look back over the last couple of years and look at how Warner's was having to eat a lot of revenue in putting
big risks they were taking the last couple years.
All their big movies they had to put on HBO Max for a while, or they chose to do that, I guess I should say. And like every company was hurting for money and was kind of hemorrhaging cash, but we haven't heard as much about that since then because everybody's putting on a brave face and trying to get theaters back up to normal and make it look like it's just business as usual, right? So when you have a new company that comes in and merges with an old one like that, it's I think it's hard to remember how much money woes could play into it, because I thought that situation, like I called it wrong, DJ. I'll say that up front. I thought that situation was just, it was one of those kind of, mutually beneficial things, or they thought it was. Either it was a hostile takeover that they were pretending like was a merger, or it was more of like an AOL Time Warner thing where they just thought it was a good fit at the time. And it looks like neither company is in great shape, and then they teamed up together, maybe just to avoid falling apart. Like, I don't know. But anyway, so apparently they are in really bad shape and are only able to put out 2 more big movies this year, and that's why the other DC superhero movies are getting pushed back. And it's and anyway, it's really wild times that we live in. So yeah, we're still talking about this. It's sort of part 5 today, I guess, of the Zaslav thing. But I didn't make that the lead-in topic because some of this I didn't even learn until I had picked tonight's lead-in topic. But still related to Warner's Discovery and the DC superhero situation. We're going to circle back to last week and talk about the Batman 2, which now is looking in a lot better shape for getting its development going, not just in development, but now has a official co-writer, who apparently is a guy that worked on the last one but uncredited. So it's like the same team, but now he's getting his name on it, I guess, and they're making it more official. And we're going to talk about whether or not the Joker is likely to be in that movie and whether we think he should be. That's going to be in tonight's lead-in topic. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Really appreciate you popping in for the Captain Logan show tonight. You can leave a question tonight during the show at any time about anything you want to. It can be about the lead-in topic, can be more about the Zaslav wave, or you can ask us about anything within reason. And we mostly like to hear about pop culture things and things that have to do with what we talk about here on the channel. Superhero stuff, sci-fi things, pop culture at large, whatever you want to talk about. You can leave a super chat in any dollar amount, and that guarantees that we'll discuss your topic. But if you can't do that, you don't want to do that, we certainly appreciate everybody that does. And thanks for keeping the train running along here. But you can also leave a regular question or comment and make sure to tag that at DJ Martinez or at The Welder or at Not Enough Time on My Hands. DJ will answer to any of those things and more. And I see a bunch of super chats already, so we'll try to get the once again, Thursdays. Thursday is Pop Culture News Day. Bunch of stuff came up today. I have several articles pulled up on even other topics that I expect to possibly come up tonight. So I am, as prepared as I ever am for this show. But let's go ahead and get into the lead-in topic. I'm sure people will want to talk a little bit more about the DC superhero situation, movie situation this year. I've got an article pulled up for that. We can talk about that also. But DJ, let's go ahead and look at an article that I pulled up today from The Direct, and thanks to Austin for bringing this to my attention. Unless it turns out it was somebody else. I think it was Austin. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. Before we do that, I do have to do a little bit of house cleaning stuff and say, first of all, as you can see on your screen there, After Dark is live again tonight. I always want to say new, but it would be really weird to broadcast a rerun. But tonight we're going to do Geekvolution After Dark. It's going to be me and Brandon and Austin. DJ, of course, is certainly welcome if he's got time. I don't know if he'll be able to stay. We're going to read some more of the wretched but fascinating fanfic Sonic High School. And we'll also be talking about several topics that aren't usually things that we would discuss at length on the channel. So pop in for that, especially if you enjoy profanity. Patreon.com/Geekvolution, just the $2 tier, get you access to that. Also tonight, I've got a kind of incentive for super chats. The top super chatter tonight gets to have a one-on-one half-hour phone call with me this weekend. So if you're interested in that, just chatting with me about whatever you want to, just me and you, not recorded. Nobody else will ever know about it. I mean, they'll know what happened, but they won't know what we talked about. It'll be just our little secret. But whoever has the highest dollar amount tonight, super chat wise, gets to do that with me. And if Tom is here, I do have to say Tom is not eligible. I didn't want to put that like in the description or anything, so sorry Tom if you've already left a super chat, but he won the last one of these, and I don't want anybody to get to do a thing 2 times in a row when I do these kind of little incentive things. Also, the t-shirts are back on sale, $14 right now once again, and you can get a regular Geekvolution logo, you can get a Vault logo, you can get a logo for this show, and you can get other things besides just t-shirts. Everything is on sale right now. I'm going to do another giveaway probably next week, so look forward to that. But I already started getting some of my merch in. They're coming in several boxes, so I've only got one thing so far of the several things that I ordered. But look at my snazzy, handy Captain Logan show mug. You too could get one of these, and it's very pretty.
There it is. It's a real late night talk show now. Look at that.
Yeah, I feel we finally come into our own. 220 shows in, and
now you just need like
say this is a talk show.
You just need like a cityscape behind you now.
I thought about that, doing something like that, but I don't know. I always like the purple. I like the brick.
Oh, I like the brick too. Purple bricks, best kind.
Okay, The Direct, and again, we'll get to Super Chats here in just a few minutes. Let me get through the lead-in topic, and again, feel free to ask about this and add your 2 cents to it. Will Joker appear in Batman 2? New report puts return in question. The Batman had a successful theatrical run, earning more than $760 million at the global box office. As a result of this success, talks about a sequel made headlines. I mean, obviously, I love just the fluff that happens in articles like this. Hollywood Reporter revealed new details about the sequel to Robert Pattinson's The Batman, while the plot details are still kept under wraps. Obviously, I don't think we'll know anything about this project for like a year or two, probably, because keep in mind that even with all this, and by the way, I'm sorry if anybody feels like their time was wasted on the show we did last week, where we were questioning just how long it would be before we saw that movie, and if there was any possibility that it wouldn't happen. But things were so up in the air. And again, I've said this before, but that wasn't me saying I don't think that sequel will happen. That was me saying it could have been on the shelf for a while they got their affairs in order. It's kind of surprising to me, honestly, that we already, like anybody that's thinking I told you so, I'm actually kind of shocked that we already have news about the project getting underway already. Like, it's really strange that we had that, in development news, and then already there's another writer attached, and they're getting rolling on the script and stuff. I was skeptical as to whether that really meant anything, but I wanted to talk about it in case it did, because everything is so wild and up in the air and crazy right now, and like I didn't think that the animated Batman show was going to get canceled, and it did. So like, anything is possible now. And again, apparently they're hemorrhaging money, so that explains why things like that are happening. But DJ, I still say you need some good new content to keep a streaming service going. So like, if they're axing, like, I get that Warner's was just throwing money at everything and spending too much, and not recouping enough of it back. But if you're going to merge the streaming services and you don't have enough material that people are going to come in, that you're going to lose people, or you're not going to get enough new people to come in, what's the point? It still doesn't seem like exactly the right strategy to me. Like, some of that they should have capped. At least that Batman show, I think they should have capped.
Yeah. I don't know what his plan is for the actual streaming service. It seems like the only plans he has for the streaming service right now is canceling stuff.
Yeah. It's like they don't want one. So yeah.
Why would you buy a streaming service and then crash it? I don't know.
Bradley bought a company, is the thing, that has a streaming service in it, and I'm sure we'll talk later about the issues that Amazon might be having with the Lord of the Rings prequel. There's kind of a big question right now, and I know this has nothing to do with Batman. There's kind of a big question right now, DJ, as to how valid streaming is as a way to make significant money right now from these studios. And we predicted this a long time ago, that once all of this got splintered, people were going to be choosier about what they subscribe to, and that some of these services weren't going to make it. But I'm starting to wonder what's going to be left when the dust settles. When HBO Max doesn't have anything scripted. I don't know that they'll have nothing, but you know what I mean? That's kind of, it feels like that's where they're going. Netflix is going to charge $50 a month before they file Chapter 11, and then
and they'll still have so many people subscribe because people just will not change. There's a good enough people that you can charge anything and they'll never cancel Netflix. You're
going to have Disney. They remember what it used to be. It's nostalgic for them now. Yeah. You're going to have Disney Plus and Hulu together as a thing, and then Amazon, but because it's Amazon, so they're still, no matter what happens with any of their other shows, including the insane billion-dollar Lord of the Rings prequel that they're doing, even if that's not successful, they'll still have a service, but they might not have new content on it.
Yeah, it's interesting that WB, licensed out Lord of the Rings, and they licensed out Sandman to Netflix, Lord of the Rings to Prime. It seems like that fits right in with his plan. He's just going to keep licensing things out instead of putting on HBO Max. I have no idea.
Yeah. I don't know. It's difficult to comment on this kind of stuff right now without saying, hey.
Yeah.
That's my commentary. That's my analysis.
There's a thumbnail face. Just put that in all the videos. It'll always be appropriate.
While let's get back to the Batman. While the plot details are still being kept under wraps, the outlet noted it is not even clear if it would feature Barry Coogan's Joker. The character first appeared at the tail end of the movie, while also being featured in an extended deleted scene, which I still say, regardless of how you feel about the performance, that scene should have been left in, and the other scene should have been axed. THR also reported that Matt Tomlin is returning with the Batman director Matt Reeves to co-write the sequel. Tomlin worked on the first movie with the writer coming in when third act issues came to light, but he didn't receive screenwriting credit. Now his involvement in the sequel comes from the ground up, with the writing process yet to start. And then this just kind of speculates what other villains could be there instead of the Joker, including Mr. Freeze, which we've talked about before, because that's a character that has been name-dropped by Reeves. Okay, let's pros and cons this a little bit. So I saw another article that said it looks like maybe a 50-50 split. Like he could be there, he could not be there. DJ, you I know not being a big Batman guy, but really liking that movie. What are your feelings about this? The way the Joker is integrated into the end of that movie, I think kind of forced in and in a scene that is not worthy of that movie and that feels more like a Gotham thing. We'll hear your thoughts on it. Yeah. But the way he's teased as he and Riddler are going to kind of team up, it would be, it seems like he's going to be a major force later. Does it seem like a strange choice to not include him in the next movie? Or regardless of that, do you just not care? Like, do you want him? Do you not want him? How do you feel about
it? Yeah, I mean, I just think that was just a strange choice in general. It was like he used it as an excuse, like, oh, I just wanted you to know that the Joker is in this universe. Well, just mention his name or something. You don't have to have a horrible bad scene with him. Like, there's a million other ways you can let us know that without casting someone and doing all that. So I don't care. I definitely don't want the second movie to be a Joker movie. Like, I would like to push him out a little bit further. So I wouldn't care if he was completely absent from the second one, but I understand people who like Joker to always be peppered into every Batman thing.
It's also been suggested that one of the reasons they might be considering not including him or not making him a major force in the movie is to avoid direct comparisons to Dark Knight. Because what franchises really shouldn't do, and too many of them have done this, is start kind of playing greatest hits and rewriting your formula, where it's like first movie is origin, and I realize that that's not exactly an origin movie, but The Batman is a Batman Begins of sorts, in that it is the kind of movie where he finds himself at the end, and now he's like, he was wearing a batsuit already and calling himself Batman, but now like he's Batman, right? And then your next movie would be The Joker, and then your movie after that would be, Bane.
Eight years later.
Yeah, whatever it is. We did this with Star Trek. I almost said Man of Steel. That's not the same thing in that, like, it wasn't Superman 2 that did Zod, but, like, right away we had to have, Zod and then Lex. I guess we reversed it, but we still, in their first two movies, only did the two villains we ever do in Superman. So, like, yeah, it may be a good idea to get away from that, especially because so many connections were made by people, whether they liked the movie or not, with the Batman 2 Begins in the first place. Like, it does have enough in common with that. I don't think it's, and I think it would be preposterous to say that that's just a remake of Batman Begins. I don't think it's just that movie again. It's not beat for beat, where it's thematically going to some of the same places. I don't want to say it's making, like, straight up different points, but it's kind of couching them differently, and I don't know, like it's very much its own thing, certainly, even with the ideas, but there's good reason to make direct comparisons to that. I certainly did when we reviewed it, but yeah, might be smart not to have the Joker for that reason.
But at the same time, it's so dumb to cast if you don't have plans for him in the second movie, why did you cast him and already shoot a scene? Like, if he's not going to be in the second one, which is going to be like 3 years down the road, and the next one's going to be 3 years later, like, why?
Or 5.
Now you have to get, like, who knows if he's going to be available in 5 years? Who knows if he's still going to be acting? Like, anything could happen. Why would you?
Was he contracted for 20 years?
Yeah, why would you lock yourself down to that specific choice when it was a throwaway scene? Like, I don't know why they felt.
Here's the thing, though. It's not a throwaway scene, at least the one that didn't make it into the movie. Like, if they kept the axed scene, the deleted scene, where he's something of a Hannibal Lecter figure, he would feel more necessary and more integrated into that plot, because I mean he does directly influence the story. He does give.
I haven't seen that yet.
He does give Batman like Batman goes to him for information, and he kind of helps send him in the direction of certain evidence. I only saw the scene one time, so it's a little bit it's a little fuzzy in my brain right now. But it felt. But he felt integral to the story even for just the one scene that he was there. There's kind of some nice thematic stuff going on there too. So when you say like he really shouldn't have been there just to tell us that the Joker is in the universe, I liked getting a glimpse of it because it feels like a lived-in Batman universe. The nice thing about and I've seen other Batman stories do this in really creative and thoughtful ways, where you'll have a villain, especially when it's the Joker, where we don't have to make the whole thing about that character, but it is Batman's arch nemesis, and he is important to the development of Batman's persona. That if Batman's been doing this for a year already, and he's already fought the Joker, and he's already put Joker in Arkham, and Joker has anything to do with his being who he is now, yeah, it's nice to get a glimpse of him. Now the glimpse that we got in the movie as it was, where it's just him and Riddler, is I think kind of nonsense. Like that's not what you'd want, and it didn't really tell me much about who he is. He felt too much like the Gotham Joker. The first one, the Jerome one, not the actual Joker, whatever. But I'm saying that I really like a lived-in Batman universe where we can just have characters come in and out like that.
Yeah. I'm just not even thinking about that because I want the Riddler to be his arch nemesis in this universe, not Joker, so.
Well, that's fair. That's fair. And he still kind of can be moving forward, but...
yeah.
And, like, I don't have really an opinion much on their take yet because I haven't seen enough of it, and at the moment it kind of feels like just different for the sake of being different. Like it's I don't know, having him be like kind of scarred. I can't remember if he's like scarred from birth or if he's like a burn victim. I can't remember. I think he's like scarred from birth. I forget now. Like that might be interesting, whatever it is they're doing with it, but it just seemed like kind of put a pin in it. So I hope one of two things happens. I'm sorry, what were you saying?
No, I was just laughing.
I hope one of two things happens. I hope he's either in that sequel but not the main villain, where they do with him in this movie what they did do in the first but just cut his scene out. I don't understand why that scene is gone. It should have been there. Or he's... because, like, I don't need him to be the big villain of that movie either. I would be okay with a multi-villain movie where you do maybe like an Arkham thing where there's several villains involved in a plot. That might be okay. But I also think it would be a little bit odd to have an Arkham Asylum show on HBO Max that takes place post The Batman where he's not featured. That's where he should be. He should be in that show. And that might be what they're... I haven't heard really anybody talking about this. Like, that might be partly why he's not in that movie, is that they're planning on developing him in that other show, and he doesn't have to be there right away. They could save him for 3, or he could be there but not be the main villain. But if you do a show set in Arkham that's not a prequel thing, and he hasn't escaped, it would be really weird if we never saw him.
Yeah. He's just, well, this Arkham is just very good at keeping villains in there. So he's just in prison the whole second movie.
Now the question is that more or less realistic?
Let me go ahead and read these super chats because TY has some interesting thoughts on this. $4.99.
Go ahead.
He says, Joker can be in the story without being the big bad, like in The Long Halloween or Nightfall. I wish filmmakers and modern comics writers understood that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that'd be great.
And then he has another one.
And I think if we do that, I think that fans, because I'm already seeing a lot of this in the comments, people that are sick of the Joker and go, he's overused, we should quit using him in, almost entirely, or just like let it rest for, a really long time. I understand that sentiment, but I've never fully agreed with that, just because even if he is overused, and even if we keep reinventing him like over and over again, and we're trying too hard to come up with a new take with the Joker, he still is undeniably the foil for Batman, and if they had done this universe, it's sort of like Beware the Batman or something. DJ, if they started this universe without the Joker and they just went, we're not going to deal with the Joker at all, that's a perfectly fine, potential take and direction to go with the franchise. It's been done before. Like there's okay precedent for it. So when I say like Joker is the foil for Batman, could you do a version of it where he's not? Yes, of course you could. Absolutely. And can Batman be popular without the Joker? Certainly. It's like, you used to have that question with X-Men and Wolverine, and we finally debunked it with First Class and some other things after that. Yes, you can have X-Men without Wolverine. Yes, you can have Batman without the Joker. Did Joker have to be in every single Arkham game? No, I don't think he did. Did he need to be all over Origins, even though we pretended like Black Mask was going to be the villain? No, I don't think he did. But if you've introduced him and he's a big part of Batman's backstory, well, now it would be weird to leave him to just leave him be just because we do him too often. I also understand people on the other side. I just had this thought that might be thinking we really need to wash the bad taste out of our mouth after the last couple of really crappy live-action Jokers we've gotten, both with Suicide Squad and with Gotham, even though this new guy reminded me, at least in the scene that was left in, a little bit too much of that version. But you do have the Joaquin Phoenix Joker, and that stuff is good, but he is or at least that movie is good, but he is of course, very different character and doesn't feel like a mastermind that could really go toe-to-toe with Batman, so he feels like he should exist in a universe almost without Batman, unless they finally make a good argument for it in the next one, and I hope to some degree they do. Not that I need Batman in the second Joker movie, but just that I would buy Batman going up against him and possibly losing. But I could also see Warner's going, like, that Joker is popular, we don't really necessarily have to have a Joker in the Batman to get people to go get, in the seats for those movies. I also hope, though, that it's not like the, embargo thing where it's like, well, now that we've got a Joker franchise, we can't have Joker in Batman movies. Because I think that's also stupid.
Yeah, that'd be weird. But TY had another super chat, $4.99. Not a fan of this Joker design. Too grotesque, like Morrison/Snyder. Why do movies have to reinvent Joker? Why can't they do classic Joker like Arkham?
I don't disagree with that. I mean, I want to keep an open mind because we haven't seen enough of it yet, so I could be won over on it. I mean, hey, I felt the same way about Ledger Joker when we first got the trailers for that, and I saw his face on T-shirts, and he looked like he was coked out of his mind. It was like the first image I saw of the Heath Ledger Joker was this, and I was like, what is that going to be, Lance? It's very strange. And he hadn't been dropped in a vat of acid, and he was just putting really bad cracking white face paint on his face. And then it completely won me over on it. Now it's kind of an iconic look, and it's an alternate version of the Joker from the one I was used to, the basic foundation for that character was something like what we did with 89 or with the animated series and that kind of thing. It would be nice to get back to basics with it, but we reinvented the Riddler, like hard, like from the ground up, and he's not wearing anything like the traditional colorful Riddler costume, any of them, and I missed that. But what they did with it was really interesting, and they won me over on that. So, like, I want to be cautiously optimistic and keep an open mind. But I also think it would be really strange if you went, let's do a classic, right off the page from like the '40s Joker, but that was the Riddler you went with. Although there's no reason that Riddler couldn't put on a suit with a question mark in the back now. I mean, there is that to consider. Where he's got the whole. What people were saying, the way people were describing it, Unabomber thing or whatever, but could he, later on, start to get more, flamboyant or theatrical, DJ? Maybe, in response to Batman. Yeah. Who was very theatrical. Okay, but if they do that, they have to avoid the word escalation. Yeah, there's certain words that franchises just ruin. You can't use them without being compared. But what about escalation? Yeah,
And
oh no,
everyone
the
was
line.
really,
Sorry,
everyone,
the line in the Batman. The line. At the end, at the beginning of the Batman 2, would be that line, but just slightly changed from Gordon. Right? He'd say, "But what about escalation, man?"
That's pretty good. That's good stuff. But yeah, I mean, who knows? We could be one up on the Joker. Like, everybody hated the Riddler look in the trailer, and then he won us over in the movie. So
Some people
who knows?
still do, though. I mean, there's certainly a camp that is not happy with that, and I sympathize, but I don't empathize. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I sympathize, but I don't care because I like it.
yeah, because I like that character. That's not definitive Riddler for me, but
Yeah.
I like the new character they created, and I'm okay with him being a version of the Riddler, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it does help that he is a like diminutive, scrawny, nerdy guy still, like wearing glasses, and like you could see in Edward Nygma turning into that,
Yeah.
being that antisocial and.
Ironically, the guy they cast as the Joker would have been another great Riddler. If anyone's seen The Green Knight, he's in that, and he plays kind of like a Riddler-esque guy who's like messing with someone and like jumping around and being like a little trickster guy.
Oh, really?
So it's interesting. He's in like everything. He's been in so many things the last few years. He went from like, I saw him in Green Knight, and then I saw him in Eternals, and then I immediately saw him in The Batman.
But like the Batman is interesting, and moving forward will be as a franchise because it's doing once again a lot of reinventions, reinterpretations, but it feels really authentic to me, like style and mood wise. So like it feels very classic comic book, but then its character models and stuff are so different, like and backstories and stuff. So like it seems like it can change anything it wants to visually and still feel more definitive as an adaptation than a lot of things have. Partly just because it's going detective and being as noir-esque as it is.
Yeah. I like that it stays true to the purpose of the characters, but doesn't feel the need to be tied down by any like superficial stuff or.
And that's also because it's influenced by several other things that have done the same thing, right? Like and we talked about this a lot, but like there's so much Arkham in that, there's so much Telltale Batman in that, there's a little bit of Earth 1 in it. And these are all things that reinvented a lot of stuff, but also like kind of sharpened edges, darkened stuff up, made a lot of characters a little bit more twisted than they had been before.
Yeah, very similar to Homecoming. That's why we liked Homecoming, because it felt like the character and the superficial stuff that they changed didn't bother me because they got the character.
It's like an ultimate version, right?
Yeah, Ultimate Batman.
in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that, because I don't feel like every Batman villain has to be like a serial killer, or like a lot of them are even in the first place, but like they all have to be serial killers or psychopaths or just like crazy perversions of humanity. But I do appreciate that, because the same thing was happening in mainstream Batman comics for a long time, particularly during New 52, where every Batman villain, even the ones that hadn't been before, had to be like super twisted and capable of snapping anybody's neck. And I appreciate that this Riddler can't do that. You know what I mean? Like, he has to use his brain. He's not gonna be able to walk up behind you and twist your neck off, because he doesn't work out enough, clearly.
He's too busy talking to his Reddit crew.
That's right, yeah.
Doesn't have time to work out. Super Billy also says, $2 super chat, don't care for Reeves' version of Joker anyway. Marion Mouse 826.
A lot of people were not won over on that. Which, let me ask you this real quick. Sorry. Do you think that has anything to do with their thinking about it like that? Like, are they backtracking when they say we might not use him, or or use him as much? Like, were they feeling it out, or would Warner's have come to them and said, okay, you have to make Joker a huge part of this? He was the breakout character in that movie, but like he wasn't. So
Yeah, maybe. Hot Soup says 4.99. I think they cut the Hannibal Joker scene in favor of the ending scene because they aren't sure they're going to stick with that design.
Oh, that's fair. Okay, but it was so blurry anyway.
Is he
And
more visible in the deleted scene? I haven't seen it.
a little, but it's very, very blurry. Like, all you have to do is just tell a story where he breaks out and he puts more makeup on or something. Like, you could
Yeah.
easily redesign it. This is part of the reason that I feel like I can say I'm not real in love with what I've seen with it yet, but also I'm open-minded because you have a Joker that's in an asylum that's not allowed to look like he would if he wasn't imprisoned. So like, let's wait and see what he does when he gives himself a get up, right?
Mm-hmm. Where he's not just in an orange jumpsuit.
Yeah, and where he can put on more face paint if he does that, because he's got scars and stuff, and he's got green hair, I think. But you know, maybe he looks more like a clown when he has time to get his face together in the morning. You know, the dude just needs a shower and he needs his vanity, okay? And then,
Oh man, that was, yeah, that's all he needs.
you know, what he did was before he got taken to Arkham this last time. He said, I say last time because I just assume that if the Joker is in Arkham, he's been there before.
Although he seems super young, so
That's true. That's true.
that just might be the actor looking young. He's probably actually old.
But I'm just seeing him go like Batman. I've taken off my makeup. Let's see if you can take off yours. And then he goes to Arkham, and Batman's like, nope. And so Joker has to live without his makeup now, and Batman's like, yeah, here's my mask.
What was I about to read? Oh, Mario Mouse 826.
Yeah.
Wow. Remember that old GNN you did? Who's more popular these days, Mario or Mickey Mouse? This guy took that to heart and made it his screen name.
Oh, crazy. And it's
What
just true.
What about Hugo Strange as the main villain for Batman 2, with Mr. Freeze and perhaps other villains working under him?
Yeah, sure. I would love to see that. That's been in my top 4 or 5. I also would be surprised if Hugo Strange wasn't one of the main players in the Arkham Asylum show. I think it's a mistake to talk about this too far without discussing that series, because they're going to be doing a lot of world building there, and Reeves is involved with all of that. So I don't think that's a case where you want to ignore that extra material and say only the movies matter. Like, Reeves knows he wants to take his time with the next one. He knows people are anchoring to see more from this world, and he knows that Batman is a big sprawling universe. So he's gonna play with it, or he's gonna hire other people to play with it in a couple of different shows. That and the Penguin show, which by the way do look pretty safe right now and are almost certainly going to come out just as unfettered and just as they were going to, despite the Zaslav wave. So yeah, Hugo Strange, whether, and also it's possible. I mean, let's not discount the possibility of introducing characters in Arkham Asylum and then using them in that movie. And so we could do a lot of kind of legwork for Hugo Strange, and then it might be a risk for characters like that to tell us too much about them and then introduce them in that movie and do the Disney Plus thing that Marvel is doing with some things and just expect that people have watched everything. But I also think that you can do it in a smart way where it's possible to see the movie without seeing the shows, and then there's just another layer to it. You're rewarded. You appreciate more if you saw those shows and were paying attention. But it is interesting that those shows are apparently, I don't think either of them, and unless I'm wrong about this, somebody tell me if I missed something in the reporting on this. But I think those are both supposed to be sequels and not prequels. Which means whatever the Batman 2 does has to build on those shows, and it's being written before some of that stuff probably is going to happen. Who knows how many scripts are together?
That's interesting.
Right? I just think it's important to keep those shows in mind. It's part of all of this.
TY, another super chat, $4.99.
Yeah, what's up, man?
If Reeves does Batgirl, like you previously suggested, how long until Barry Keoghan sweeps her off her feet and tries driving Jeffrey Wright crazy?
Who did he say?
The Joker, actor.
Oh, sorry. I keep forgetting that guy's name, and I just read it. But yeah. So you're saying you're expecting that they'll adapt Killing Joke? Yeah, and I could really see them do something like that. Although, given just what we've had so far with the Batman, I don't see Reeves, and I could be totally off base with this, of course. The Batman didn't adapt anything story-wise, right? Like, it took characters from lots of places, and it took, like, bits of plot ideas and stuff maybe from different things, but there's a lot more, even in the Nolan movies, there's a lot more straight adaptation from stories than we've had so far with that. But it's only been one movie, so I don't know for sure. But, like, if you bring in Batgirl, does she get shot, lose her legs, become Oracle? I think a lot of that just depends on whether, or, like, do you do a, like, pseudo-adaptation of that where it's attempted and Joker is foiled or something, but where, you know, you kind of just harken back to that? Because, like, yeah, there's a lot of Long Halloween again in the Batman, and other things, and a lot of Year One and stuff. But, like, characters, relationships and stuff, we're trying some new things. Some of it is based on some different things, like, you know, the Falcone Catwoman relationship is not new, but we haven't dealt with it a lot. So, but, like, that's not even an event so much as just a familial relationship, right? So, I don't know. I hesitate to say I would expect a like, direct adaptation of a thing, or going that close to a direct adaptation. I don't know, but I also think it depends on what Reeve and the other writer really like in Batman. You know, like, if they're big Oracle fans, because she doesn't get enough love in in extra media. Like, I wouldn't want to introduce her in a movie to get her shot. You know, I'd like to live with her a while before that happens. But if they decided to do it for the express purpose to get us to Oracle because Barbara Gordon is so much more interesting as that character, then I'm all for it, certainly.
Yeah, it's like the Gwen Stacy thing. It's like, she's known for dying, so we're going to kill her off right away. It's a bummer.
Yeah, but
would have loved a trilogy with Gwen Stacy.
I agree, but the big difference is there's lots of other history with Barbara Gordon, and a lot of continuities don't do that.
Yeah.
And for better or worse, she hasn't been Oracle in a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when you say how long, like how long is it until? I'm not making the assumption that ever happens. I don't think you can make that assumption. It could, absolutely, but who knows? I don't know. But, like, we can't even tell how much they want to do with the Joker at all. You know?
Yeah, it's just so early to be.
Yep, it's just really early to
predicting
speculate.
Things.
And don't get me wrong, fun to speculate, but we don't really know enough yet.
That was the last super chat about this topic.
Okay.
Specifically, should we change gears?
We absolutely can change gears, yeah. And if anybody wants to bring us back to this, feel free to, sure. And again, lots of other news that came out today, so if any of that gets broached, I'll make sure and do a little bit of discussion and analysis on that. Like I said, I've got articles up about a couple of the other big things that happened today, so.
Yeah. A couple super chats.
Let me also say real quick, sorry, before we move on. If you came in late, we are doing a super chat incentive tonight. If you are so inclined to participate, the top super chatter tonight gets to have a one-on-one phone conversation with me for a half hour sometime this weekend, and I'll just coordinate with whoever ends up winning that, and it can't be Tom because he won the last one.
Disqualified.
Anyway,
right now the leader is TY. So if you're coming for the lead, you gotta top TY.
Gotta go after TY. And thanks so much for all of the support so far this evening. Also, as you see on your screen, Geekvolution After Dark is tonight after the show. Okay, go ahead. On Patreon.
David Schmutz put in a couple super chats at the very beginning of the show because he said he could not watch live, so he's going to check on this later. But he wants to know...
Oh, sorry you couldn't make it, but thanks for the super chats.
Age gap romances in fiction. Is there a right way to portray them? How to avoid making them creepy What age gap superhero couples should be canon?
Wow. Age gap superhero couples. I want to start backwards. Who are we talking about? Like, who comes to mind, DJ?
Ant-Man, Doc Ock.
What? No, I assume when he says that he means like there are classic examples of this that are not immediately coming to my mind. Is it like examples of couples that have big age gaps? Besides, like, is that what he's saying?
He says what age gap superhero couples should be canon. So maybe he's asking you to pitch some, or like ones that you think would be good.
Oh, see, if that's right, I'm reading that wrong. Sorry, just the way you worded that, I'm not totally sure what he means. Because it should be canon. Anytime somebody says canon, I assume it's a thing that has happened that people might find controversial or don't like which one should count, which one shouldn't count.
Yeah,
I would assume is what he's saying.
Everybody in the chat is saying Batman and Barbara should never be a thing.
Yeah, and that's where I figured that was probably going. The Batman Barbara thing is, and let me say this too. Everything just depends on what kind of story you're telling and why. I'm going to cop out on this, like I always do, because I have to, and say case by case, it depends. Throw one at me, give me a context, I'll let you read the story, and I'll tell you if I think it works or not. I don't have immediately a aversion to any kind of story you want to tell, even if it's controversial, even if it pushes envelopes, even if it makes people uncomfortable. It's all about what the purpose of it is. So this is just me. This is my own sensibilities. I don't get caught up in the and some people might not like this about me, but I don't mind being straight up about it. It's kind of like comedy, where like I think anything goes. I think you can tell a joke about anything, and I think you should be able to write stories about anything, and like I don't get caught up in the politics or legalities and stuff of this kind of stuff. So when it's it's taboo to ever have a story with and like it is, and it might be a bad idea to try to put it on television or something because people aren't going to watch your show. But as far as like, is it morally or ethically horrible to ever have a story where you have an adult dating a minor? No, I don't think so. Can it be creepy? Yes. Is it illegal? Yes. Is it wrong? Sure. Is it wrong to tell the story? No. Is it wrong to tell a story about incest? No. In the same way, it's not wrong to tell a story about murder.
Yeah, no. Protagonists don't have to be good role models.
Yeah. And
unless you're portraying it that way.
But they do if they are.
Yeah, exactly.
If the character is a hero and the story is on their side and is saying with particularly this thing, it's okay, then now you're in a weird preachy area where you're preaching to the wrong people because they're not going to agree with you and run with you. You know what I mean?
Where you're trying to change society.
Yeah, but like there's a story in. This is not a great example because it's not a great story, but there's a story in the fourth, I believe, season of Smallville that you would not see on TV now. Where probably, especially a like teen drama aimed at high school kids, where you have Lana Lang dating a high school football coach, and she's in high school and she's still underage, or at least she's not even a senior, or is she a senior? No, she would be a senior at that point. So she could be 18, but they never specify, so it's kind of weird. And they just kind of never talked about that part of it. But there were consequences for it, and it was played like they liked each other and got along, and it was a romantic relationship, but they were breaking the rules, and when people found out about it, there were consequences for it. So like, just because it's taboo in culture for people to do that, is it wrong to put that in a show or in a story of any kind? No, I don't think so. So I don't mean to be soapboxy, but I feel like I have to get that out of the way before I can deal with any other part of that question. So when you say like age gaps with superheroes, it's too broad for me. It's too vague. Like, I don't have a moral aversion to it in principle, depending on the kind of story you're telling, because there's lots of gray area in morality and ethics in a lot of superhero stories now. It just depends on what you're doing. But if you have a story, let's go to an absurd place, okay? Let's say you have a traditional altruistic Superman with his regular values, and you play him like he does no wrong and he doesn't make mistakes and he's hardly human, and then you have him dating a minor. That's preposterous, obviously, because then it seems like you're just saying. Then it does read creepy, and if you're a guy, it probably reads like you're kind of you're a little bit pervy, and like you're in your 20s writing fan fiction, and you just want to see a like 32-year-old Superman dating and sleeping with like a 14-year-old whoever it is, you know what I mean, a Batgirl or a Spoiler or whatever other character you can think of in DC that he would be with, right? But if it's, and when you say age gap, I assume you mean the underage thing. Like I assume you're not talking about like a, I don't know, 50-year-old superhero that's dating like a 30-year-old woman or something.
Yeah, probably. Unless he's not a big fan of that either. I don't know.
Sure.
His personal preferences, but
I'm not thinking of any other really great examples of this with stuff. Like, I don't know how much older Oliver Queen is than, like, Black Canary. Like, she's probably quite a bit younger than him, but he's like a rich playboy, and that's kind of pretty typical and standard for them. Like, if he's in his 40s and she's in her 20s, it just kind of, I don't mean that you have to always play the stereotypes, but like, okay, I'm not surprised by that. You know what I mean?
Well, and some versions
ring true. Like, I don't know.
Some versions of Spider-Man we play, like in Ultimate, Black Cat is older, and she doesn't know that he's like 15, and then when she finds out, she literally vomits because she's disgusted by it. But like, it's a 15-year-old kid. Like, of course he's gonna go along with that if a attractive super villain woman starts making out with him.
I don't like, and again, I'm sorry for being so boxy. I don't like avoiding things that happen in real life, in stories, because they offend our sensibilities. Yeah, let's pretend like these things don't happen, because like that's good for the culture, that's good for society. If we don't ever talk about them, they'll just stop happening in real life. That's not how it works.
Yeah, and it's always weird what people latch onto. Like, you never hear anyone complaining about this with like action movies where the hero just like murders people. Like, it's like the extreme. It's always the stuff that's like the extreme stuff. I guess doesn't bother people, but the stuff that's like
the unsettling things that they might run into in their everyday life or something. Yeah. Blue Dragon 5 says the vomiting seems like an overreaction. I felt the same way when I read that, by the way. That did seem to be going a little bit too far. I can't even imagine that response that a person would have. Unless they'd slept together already. I could see that.
Yeah.
Blue Dragon 5 says, also, I think he'd mean 50 and 30-year-old, actually. If that's all he's talking about, it's the same answer. It's just case by case. Like, I don't know, pitch
just less emphatically, because it's not spelled anything.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, moving right along.
Yeah. Ian Chandler, $5. If Geekvolution were a video game, what kind would it be? Beat 'em up, JRPG, fighter, etc. Also, and a whole different topic, give She-Hulk a try yet? I was pleasantly surprised.
I have not yet. I'm planning to, but I'm waiting for the Orville question again. I'm 2 more episodes deep now. Okay, I've watched some more Orville, but that's why I haven't watched any of She-Hulk yet, because I'm trying to catch up on that show. So I'll try to give that a try. Maybe over the weekend if I have time, but I'm also working on the Revenge of the Sith rewind, and that's another 2.5-hour movie, because I had to do 3 long ones in a row, DJ.
Oh.
Great. Like, the next thing I pick is going to be 80 minutes.
DC Direct.
Yes. I'm going back to the well of those. Boy, that's just the gift that keeps on giving until the Zaslav effect hits it, and then I'm waiting for that to be the next thing that gets canceled. Like, we're not going to throw money at that anymore.
Yeah.
But as far as the video
I haven't
game
watched
thing,
it either yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I haven't got to She-Hulk.
Are you
yet
gonna?
either.
Are you planning on it?
Yeah, I like to give those a try, one episode at least, to see if it's for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I know there's a bunch of those now that I haven't reviewed or haven't talked about, like, past this show. And if I can find the time, I would like to do more of that, maybe, with the ones that I do end up finishing. But it's just a matter of working it in, and because I like to have a couple of watches with those, usually, because people will... I don't know. I would do more overviewy things for things like that, where I only watched it once and I give you my real general first impressions. Except, I mean, everything we do is live now, and you'll get a crowd, and people want you to talk about very specific things. And with Marvel stuff in particular, DJ, people just always really know their stuff. So they'll come in and they'll ask me these really specific things, and they'll be talking. They'll expect you to know like names really well and stuff, and I get intimidated by that. I come in and I just don't feel prepared. Like, no matter what I planned the video to be, you know what I mean? Like, I'll come in and I'm like, this isn't fair. Somebody left a super chat and I'm not prepared. I only saw it one time. I don't know it that well, you know. So that's part of the reason that I haven't done as much of that, and also just because they have not kept my attention the way I was hoping they would. So, like, if I was, you know, continuing to feel like a mega fan of that stuff, you'd see me talking about it a lot more.
Yeah, no, we talked about the ones we liked. Like, we talked about Hawkeye more than any of them because we were enjoying that one.
Yeah, I never did a review of that, though.
Yeah, but it came up a lot on this show.
It did. That's true. But anyway, so the video game thing has come up before, and I've always said RPG. It just kind of only makes sense. I mean, it would be really funny to have, like, you know, characters based on
fighter
some of us beating each other up and stuff. There's maybe not a big enough cast of characters, like a big enough roster, but I like the idea of a like review simulator. That's what I've always said it should be.
Who reviews the viewers of the game?
That would be cool too, but I always thought of it more as like a life simulator kind of thing, where like your career is live streaming reviews, and you come in and you have to, or it could be like the old rewind format or whatever it was, because I thought of this at different points in our history, and we go through phases just like Marvel does, except not nearly as fast now. And we, because, you know, I will probably still be live streaming most or all of our content at the point where they're moving on to phase 6, but I guess I don't know for sure. And anyway, but yeah, I was thought like you put together your review, and then you come up with a strategy for the kinds of things that you review, and you decide how often you're going to post, what hours of the day you're going to post, what your strategy is for like keeping people interested, building Patreon, that kind of stuff, and then you see like how many viewers show up to your shows or watch your things after the fact, and what kind of a subscriber count you can amass, and you make it really difficult to get past 33,000 so that my ego is not shattered. That's
oh, so it's like Geekvolution Sims or Geekvolution Tycoon.
Yeah, exactly.
YouTube Tycoon.
Exactly, but with more QuickTime events somehow.
Yeah. Well, you would record them all for the game.
Oh, that's a really great idea. Yeah, where you have a QuickTime event where you have to move the stick in a certain direction and press a button just to have me do this.
Yeah, to do the thing. Or to do the salute.
Yeah. You can customize your own Captain Logan and decide what his tattoos are and where they go.
This sounds great. This needs to be a thing. Big Bad Harv 95.
Yeah, how's it going?
199.
I love his name. I don't know what it is. I get giddy with Batman animated series references. Like, I don't know why, but anybody that does that makes me happy. Anyway, I'm sorry. Good.
Warms the soul. 10 best and worst things about Smallville.
Okay, we gotta stop it with this 10 of things.
No more listing
on the live shows. Well, I mean, I don't mind doing it occasionally, but when it's 10, this is another one of those things where I want to make it its own video, like, because I did this with and maybe that's why he's asking that, because I did this a couple months ago. Do you remember when we did a show where I said I would pick a topic and make it the whole show, and I believe that topic was the 10 worst things about the Arrowverse. Or something
yeah. I remember that.
That was a well-viewed and well-attended live stream. I could do the same thing with Smallville. 10 favorite and 10 least favorite things. There's suddenly a lot more interest rekindled with Smallville right now because of the Talkville podcast. We've talked about this recently, and I'm very seriously considering bringing back, even though I wasn't going to, I'm very seriously considering bringing back once again forevermore the episode-to-episode commentaries with Counting Crypto Freaks, because I don't know if I'll keep the counting thing going, but at least keep doing the commentaries once Rosenbaum and Welling catch up to where I was.
And they're counting things too. I couldn't believe that.
They are. Yeah. It's just it's a natural thing to do with Smallville. You cannot help yourself. You have to count things. And I don't know how long he'll keep going with that. I think Rosenbaum is going to realize that it is too much to get, like, the pattern is too often, and he's going to go, you know what? This is boring. I'm not.
Especially him, because he doesn't like the repetitive nature of that first season.
Yes, that's exactly right.
He's already upset with, like, the Freak of the Week after, like, episode 3.
Yeah. His big refrain is, I mean, I didn't hate it. It's great. No, it's been a lot of fun listening to that, and I'm not past episode 3 yet, because I'm just, like I said before, I'm just listening to it when I'm, like, doing dishes and stuff, so I'm hearing it in, like, 5-10 minute increments, driving around and stuff. But I have been listening to it, and I'm enjoying it, and I'm planning to call into that show. I don't know for what episode yet, but I do want to see if I can get my voice on there once or twice, and try to come up with just the right thing to ask them, considering that I've got this history reviewing that forever.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool that they're taking calls like that, and I think you could ask some better questions than some of the ones they've taken. Like, one of them was like
generic. Some of those.
One of them was like one of them didn't understand how films were made. Like, he was like, when your character had to throw that rock and break the glass, he's like, how many times did it take you? I'm like, that was a cut-in shot. Like, he wasn't actually on set throwing a rock.
I couldn't believe Rosenbaum played that. Yeah, that was. I just heard that this afternoon. That was in Hothead. That was the 3rd episode. Yeah. And you could see Welling just like, did he just ask that? Like, really? All right. He was trying not to be facetious. You could tell, and he was.
No, he was super nice about it.
It's glass that they make to break easy. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, so I'm very seriously considering bringing that back. Even though I don't know where I'm going to fit it in the schedule, but if I ever am going to do it, that would be the time. But I've got probably a year
before they catch up.
Yeah, I want them to catch up. I mean, I did a poll recently, or somewhat recently, and asked people if they would rather see season overviews on Rewind, and overwhelmingly people said yes. But then there's more interest than there was, so I don't know. I think it might make sense, but yeah, I would consider doing the 10 best and worst things as a separate video, and I'm gonna write that down right now.
Okay, cool.
I'm not gonna do it right here. I won't do 10. Give me a second. I just want to write this down. 10 best, worst things about Smallville. One of the worst things is story convenience. Absolutely. One of the worst things is retconning. One of the worst things is, I'm gonna try not to do 10 right now. I guess this is really easy. One of, at least for worst things, one of the worst things is being really ambiguous about your science to the point where it's your super science, your pseudoscience with particularly Kryptonian technology, to the point where it's basically magic. That's obnoxious and gets really annoying. One of the best things is, of course, just the Lex-Lionel relationship and the parallel and mirroring between the Kent relationship, the most twisted and most wholesome stuff in the show that makes it a family drama, but also pushes that to a bit of an edge, comes from that whole dynamic, and it's wonderful. Another worst thing is how small the town isn't, and how it doesn't feel like Kansas, and how it's too close to Metropolis. No, I can do this all day long. But
yeah. Roboters100 said one of the worst things is characters getting knocked out.
Convenient unconsciousness.
That's just a TV thing. Like one hit in Lost apparently knocks you out for as long as they need you to be knocked out.
Smallville is worse because you get knocked out. The timing is convenient so that you don't see Clark use his powers.
Yeah.
That's why it's dumber in that show. Yeah. One of the best things is and I don't mean to be flippant when I say this, but is the intro and theme song. It had one of the best of all time. And particularly when they revamped it for season 5, that is a killer. And the way that's edited and the font type and everything, it's really pretty. They have really good intros in that show.
And they lucked out that song is so catchy. Because you have no idea when you just pick a song for the first season if it's going to last 10 years. And it totally does.
Yeah, and they never did like another version of it or anything. Like it was always that song. Now that singer passed away like halfway into the show.
Ooh.
So they couldn't have re-recorded it if they wanted to, or maybe it was like 7 or 8 years in. But like Remy Zero, like that singer, and I don't know what he died of, but he died at some point during the show's run, if memory serves.
Talkville also has a weird. It's kind of weird, but it's catchy too. The intro song to Talkville. It has nothing to do with Smallville, but it's just a little.
I haven't really given that any thought.
Senior Stick says, DJ, counting is wonderful.
Counting is wonderful. But yeah, hey, what's the thing about Smallville that you actually like, DJ? You watched some of that show.
Ooh, I've watched all 10. I've watched every episode of that show.
Oh, have you really? You've seen every episode?
Every episode. That was the last show where I was like, I have to finish this just to say I finished this. And even though I wasn't enjoying it for most of the last 5 seasons.
It's rough.
What do I like about that show? It's tough. It's been a long time. I think I watched that like 2010, like right as it was ending. Is when I finally caught up, and I watched it all so quick. I like binged it kind of because I had time back then, and so it all kind of the seasons kind of run together to me. But just like an overall like broad thing I like about it.
Yeah, because it's hard for me not to just go to details.
Yeah, it's hard.
People say, "What do you like about that show?" It's hard for me not to say like Perry,
a specific thing,
one episode, but just like their Perry White is awesome, and stuff like that. Like I like things about,
or it's not, or just like
Reeve,
Lex.
Like I like things about their mythology. A lot of it I don't like. Their use of the Kryptonian symbols and stuff is really cool.
I like the parent stuff. I think his parents are very well casted, very well acted, and they get some good stuff with both Clark and with Lex.
Okay, we could do this all day. I might make that a video. I wrote it down. Who asked me for that? Because I'll make sure and credit them, of course.
That was Big Bad Harb 95.
Oh, of course. Sorry I spent so long on that, guys.
People singing "Somebody Save Me" in the chat.
Ryan is another thing that's just one of the best characters on TV. He was in 2 episodes. Love that character.
They just did an episode. I think they just did the Amy Adams episode actually, but the one before that on Talkville, they talked about the old lady that could see the future.
Yeah.
And I completely forgot about that episode.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
That's one of my favorites in first season.
Yeah, they like that one.
It's really good.
Provocative, like really cool imagery and stuff with Lex.
Yeah, the President Lex stuff. And part of the reason that was so provocative was getting to any like at the time recent or like really recent in current comic book stuff where they're like, oh, you're like predicting President Lex. That's really cool that they even thought to do that. Because it's really easy in a show like that to be really generic and sidestep a lot of the history and mythology and not really play with any of it. And it was cool to, subtle is not the right word, but like relatively subtly doing some of that kind of stuff. And then by the end, they just had him straight up be the president, and they were, they kind of acted like they were always inching toward that. But it was neat getting that as a vision.
And the fact that they went all the way that villain just gives her a heart attack and she dies was pretty crazy.
Because she sees that, because he's so evil. And I also just liked the show drawing the line in the sand, saying yes, he will go down that path. That's what he has to do. He's Lex Luthor. Like, we're not going to be crazy enough to go that far against the grain, but we're going to give him every possible opportunity for change.
Yeah, the show's not about whether he will or won't he. It's like it makes you hurt because you know that's where he's going, because you don't want him to go down that way.
And there's all these places where he didn't have to. And it also, that episode could have ruined the entire show if he saw it. And he doesn't see it. She does. Yeah. And he has no idea what she saw. That's the thing at the end. He's like, he's curious about everything. He has to know everything. And it's and like, I like Strange New Worlds more than all of the other new Trek shows, but and that's not that show's fault, it's Discovery's fault, but like, it's the Pike thing. You kind of ruin the Pike getting crippled and in the wheelchair by having him know what's going to happen. And it's really nice they didn't do that to Lax, because that is prequelitis nonsense, man. Like, I hate that.
Yeah, there's some surprisingly good stuff in that show. And ironically enough, I like the high school stuff the most. Like, if you're going to tell young Clark, if you're going to tell Smallville stories, stick with that.
Yep.
Like, focus in on that.
But it can't go longer than 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's... Once he starts fighting every villain he's ever faced in the comics before he's even Superman, it's just like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Why are we doing this?
It's not that
What's
show
the point?
anymore. And it's even sillier because they keep calling it Smallville, but they never go there.
Yeah.
Like, at the point where it's not even in Smallville anymore, where they've just abandoned all their sets. You're done. Quit making your show.
But no, I really am enjoying watching. I haven't been watching it back through for the podcast, but I've been enjoying listening to it, and I'm remembering surprisingly quite a bit. I guess because I watched through your reviews, so that was like the first refresher, and now I'm getting in like another one.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a part of me that almost wants to start over, but I just don't know if I could commit to it. You know, and it would feel weird like saying a lot of the same stuff again. But like, the early episodes of that show, of course, are scripted and, you know, admittedly kind of better than the commentaries, but I just don't have time to do it like that anymore. And they got copyright striked all the time. Like, I got to the point where too many of those episodes just you couldn't even see. So then I had to do the stupid, you know, podcast not even having the things there anymore, the images there anymore, and then I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna make these commentaries. So it is kind of weird if I come back to it that, like, it's two different formats right now, and like, they're only on episode 7, and there's like a part of me that almost wants to like catch up to them with commentaries and then do commentaries all the way up, and then I'm like, I don't know if I can find time in my schedule to do all that, so I don't know. Yeah. But anyway, I'm very, very on the fence about the whole thing. And it feels self-indulgent because I feel like not enough people care. Like, the more recent episodes, when I was doing them, weren't doing huge numbers, but then they weren't great episodes. And I wasn't doing it very consistently. So it's like, if I put it out weekly again, like, and because of Talkville, like, I feel like I could kind of, you know, get people back interested in it again, maybe. But then also the question is, like, does that even matter, or do I just need to, for myself, do it? You know?
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah. It's tough. We have no wisdom for you.
You had to go off and buy me the Blu-rays, and then that got me kind of more interested in going through it again. And...
Sorry, guys. Well, you're welcome, guys, if you guys are ones that want to watch it. Mario Mouse 826.
Yeah. Hi there.
He put in a super chat, but he retracted it. I don't know if that comes through or if that goes away. I just thought I'd throw it out just there, just so you know. Say his name again. Checkers the Inventor,
well,
$2. $2 from Checkers the Inventor. Talk NFL football for at least 10 minutes. Go.
I can't.
Oh, my gosh.
That's not possible. I can't do it.
Also, you can't give us time limits for how long we have to talk about your question, sir.
The only thing I can say about the NFL is I'm tired of its popularity here, because I live in Kansas City, and Chiefs is obviously the number one team and insanely popular, and it's just all you hear about around here. There's whole stores that are just Chiefs, like, in several places around here. Like, that's how huge it is. It's just Mahomes just everywhere. And I don't watch football. I can't do it. I can't get excited about it. I've tried. I can't sit and watch football for more than 10 minutes. Like, it's too much starting and stopping. It's boring to me. I can't do it.
I can't watch any sports for more than 10. I couldn't care less about professional sports. The only thing I know about NFL is PlayStation 1. I played the crap out of NFL Blitz because that game was really fun, and then NFL Street 2 on the GameCube was my game. Played that game a lot.
Oh,
mostly because you could just create your own characters, and you could do like impossible things like run on walls and like flip over people and do like special moves. It wasn't like normal. I don't understand anyone who plays like Madden, like a video game that's made to be as realistic football as possible. Like, why?
Yeah, where you're just simulating it. I mean, to be honest with you, like I like basketball a lot, and obviously it's less stopping and it's more kinetic. And that's why I like it more. But even that, I'd much rather play a more cartoony game like NBA Jam than a realistic game where you get called for just every damn thing.
Yeah.
Just the constant fouls and stuff. Because, well, and here's the thing, like, with that, and I don't mean to take football and just talk about basketball. But basketball's my sport. It's the only one I care about. It's the only one I know anything about, and I don't even know a lot about that. But it's the one I will sit down and actually watch, and that I have a team that I follow. With college anyway, and with basketball, if you go back 20 years and play like an NBA game, it's not quite as bad. Because if it's simulating the way the rules were at the time, it just wasn't as draconian. And then you get the and I wonder if football's the same way. Like you get a basketball game now, and it's like just like TV. It's just whistles all the time. You just get called for everything. It's boring. I don't want to do that. Like, you know, I much prefer like he's on fire and
NFL Blitz, man.
Stuff,
NFL,
it's fun.
NBA Street 3.
And NBA Blitz, I think, might be their version of NBA Jam. I can't remember, but I know that, that the guys that make NBA Jam did a football game that was cartoony like that. And I think that's what that is. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Because I never played it. Because I don't know anything about football.
You literally could be on fire and run down the field. But NBA Street Volume 3, you could play as Mario and Luigi and Peach.
I only know that because of one of Jason's video game secrets. He talked about that.
I love that game. You could jump up in the air for like 10 minutes and do like a bunch of flips and spins and then dunk it. It was great. Also, the best basketball game is Space Jam for the PlayStation.
Space Jam?
I played the crap out of that game at my grandma's house.
Okay, because I had the Space Jam game on the Saturn, and I sold it because it was terrible. So I wonder if it was different on PlayStation or if they were both not very good, and I was just comparing it to a much better Looney Tunes basketball game, which is Looney Tunes B-Ball on Super Nintendo, which still holds up wonderfully well. And if you ever come out here, I'll show it to you, DJ. It's one of the best basketball games on any platform. It's so much fun.
I don't know, because I was like 8 years old, so like I could have just liked it because I was 8, or it could actually hold up. I haven't played it since, but I played that game a ton because it was like the only game my grandma had, and when I went to her house, I played it all the time.
I was so disappointed with that when that came out.
OAW Entertainment says, I'm shocked DJ remembered that game. Hey, it was fun. There was like mini games in between where you would like go to Michael Jordan's house and you'd have to run away from the dog.
I hated that. It was terrible. No, I hated that.
But I just like playing as the Monstars and playing the basketball game.
See, the problem was I just couldn't help but compare it to a much better game. Like,
also, goaltending. Goaltending was annoying in that game though, because I would always jump up and block it, and then I would get a foul for goaltending. I'm like, why you got goaltending?
You could do that in the Super Nintendo game too. It was the only thing you could call for was goaltending.
Yeah,
and I think that's also true on NBA Jam, by the way.
Okay.
I have that one-up arcade machine, which is why I keep looking this way. Because it's right there, and now I want to play it.
I'll be there soon. I'll be there in 12 hours.
One-up might have released the Blitz arcade also.
Oh,
I'm not sure, cool. But that's the one you should get.
I should.
Anyway, moving on.
But I don't want to go down that slippery slope of buying those things. I already sent you down that path.
I should. Yeah, I know. It's your fault. I blame you. I blame you and your brother. You guys cost me a fortune with them.
I plead the fifth. Logan Dodd, 199. So Dan Lin is possibly the Kevin Feige of DC?
Yes, that news came out this afternoon, just a couple of hours before the show. Let me find this real quick. Dan Lin in talks, this is from Twitter, discussing film, in talks to take over as DC chief and oversee future film and TV projects. He has previously produced the It movies, Lego Movie, and Netflix's live-action Avatar: The Last Airbender series. So he sounds like potentially not a bad choice for the job. I don't have a whole lot to comment on with that, except to say I'm glad to see that they're already moving forward and trying to figure out who the leader is going to be, and they're not just kind of flailing around. I'm glad it's not just Zaslav with some like executives in a room going, what should the 10-year plan be? Like, I'm glad that they're actually going after somebody that seems like they might have some credibility.
Carl Maxey said technically that was only 6 minutes, and also we didn't talk about NFL for but a minute of that.
No, we didn't.
So
we didn't.
We got one more super chat from Ryder.
Well, just real quick, like, do you have any opinion about that at all? Like, they probably need a Feige.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's what everyone wants. It's just really, really tough to find the right guy, because technically they started with one guy. And,
well, of course, yeah. And Jeff Johns was the guy for a while. Like, the worry, of course, is they put somebody in, and I mean, it's different people in power now, so who knows how they'll respond. But Warner's track record, their history has been they put somebody in that place and they don't trust them enough to give it a little bit of time before they immediately replace them when one doesn't do what they wanted it to. And they just immediately turn tail and go back to the drawing board. And like, it's, this is apt. Like, they ran DC like Wile E. Coyote trying to catch the Roadrunner. That's how they did their business. One thing didn't work and they just went shopping.
Yeah, because it's no one can compare to Marvel because Kevin Feige didn't have to worry about that. He was able to slowly build up. Like when he worked on the first two films, there was no pressure. It wasn't until way down the road.
And there wouldn't have been, even if one of the first two or three had not done very well, because it's so different. Marvel Studio, first of all, it's different when you're a new studio, and obviously what Marvel did was unprecedented because it's making movies that are all in the same continuity. We've talked about this, but you're a studio versus a piece of a larger studio. That's the first thing, right? The second thing is precedent. So Warner's is trying to jump into a pool that is that already has a bunch of the popular kids in it at the deep end that have had a lot of swimming lessons, right? And so it's such a different situation when you're brand new and just trying to survive and get people to see your movies. I mean, I say brand new, like, keep in mind, Marvel Studios predates Iron Man. They already had some movies under their belt, but that's the first movie that's setting up their shared universe. But, like, if Iron Man hadn't done the huge guns it did, and it was only, like, marginally successful, they wouldn't have just immediately gotten rid of Kevin Feige. They were like, oh, God, no, what do we do? It wasn't like, these things have to make, like, $1 billion or $900 million to even compete. It was just different. And you're also, again, not a smaller piece of a larger studio. It just makes a really big difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was just a sweet spot that they were... It's never going to be like that again.
And it's too bad that DC couldn't start that way. It's too bad that they couldn't have started as a studio before they had a parent company, Because, yes, Marvel Studios got bought out by Disney, but they were already well on their way at that point. And so, like, now, yes, there's oversight from a larger corporation, and Disney does affect the way they do business, absolutely. But Warner's was never going to let a DC studio work autonomously, which is what I wish they'd done. And I wish that they had started with somebody like a Jeff Johns in the first place. And not a Snyder. And also, your Kevin Feige shouldn't be making movies. And I guess I'm saying that mostly just based on the success Marvel has had, but also look at the successful, like, studios in the past. not just the shared universe thing, but like, you know, when you've got somebody like a Feige, they can do a lot of coordinating. You just need a good executive and a good producer that like, you know, understands enough about the creative side and it's and not just business. You know, you got to find that sweet spot, but you don't really want somebody that's making the movies also making all the decisions about all the other movies that are being made.
Yeah. I said this exact thing when people suggested Affleck a few shows ago for running the DC universe. I was like, if he's not going to be making movies, but if he is still directing stuff, that's going to be too much on his plate.
And also, what are his qualifications? Like, he's to produce like that. It's a different job.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's possible that you could be a creative person and then move over. It's like a teacher that becomes a really good administrator, but they gotta stop teaching, you know?
Yeah. My 6th grade teacher became the principal right when I went to 7th grade. It was weird.
That kind of thing happens all the time.
Mr. Boggs.
But I don't know why you would go to Affleck over anybody else. Like, it'd be nice to see him. I'm just saying, with that example, I'd rather see him direct, you know?
Yeah. He's a creative guy.
Exactly.
Oh, let me see. Ryder perked up when they mentioned age gap romances,
Sure.
He's talking about this since then. He says $2. Do you approve Spidey-Pool? Spider-Man loves Deadpool.
What?
No, don't approve. Don't like Deadpool. Definitely don't want my favorite character in a romance with him.
You're talking about like Spider-Man and Deadpool in a romance? No, I would want to see that. I mean, like, you'd have to reinvent both characters.
I mean, Cap says you can make anything work, you just got to make it work, but he's like, no.
Well, okay, I'll tell you where the way you would have to do it. But at this point, it feels like we're just talking about like crazy slash fiction or something. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I don't mean to be a prude or a bigot or whatever, and be like, I don't want to see gay relationships in comics. That's not what I'm saying. It's just like those are both heterosexual guys. Is the first thing. So you have to reinvent them from the ground up. Like, and also even if, let's say they're both bisexual or they're both homosexual. Let's just like throw out the reality of it in the first place. What in the world would Peter Parker, who's all about responsibility, see in Deadpool? Hell, what would Deadpool see in him? It doesn't make any sense. Like, nothing about it makes sense. So you'd have to reinvent them from the ground up. And then he's not Spider-Man anymore. So yeah, no, I don't see how you'd make that work. Like,
there you go.
I don't know.
You broke the rule,
Obviously,
Ryder.
you can make anything work as hyperbole. You know what I mean? Like, you're always going to find that insane, ridiculous thing that I can't tell you how you could make it work. And maybe there's an outside chance somebody could still write it and win me over, I guess. But you're talking about desert island nonsense at that point. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I guess when I say that, I just mean, like, let's have some common sense within reason. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you can make anything work, so I'm going to write a story about a duck that has that falls in love with a toaster, and they have a baby hamster. Yeah, okay. I mean, within reason, you know. Like,
I thought you were gonna make like a pun there. Like if you had said a pig in a toaster and then they made a hamster, it would have worked. But you said duck. So it didn't
and then
work.
they make a ham sandwich.
Last super chat we have so far is from Hot Soup.
Hello, Hot Soup.
And
What's
he
up?
just says, "You are not alone in being sick of the Chiefs."
I'm not alone, man. I have a big family. My wife and I went off and had 5 kids. I don't know. Football. Okay, well, glad to know that. I don't know. It's just everywhere, and it's not a thing I'm interested in, so I can't help but get tired of it. Like, you know, to each his own. I mean, like, I'm glad people enjoy that, and it's cool that there's a thing that I guess the whole city can band together around. Sometimes the local sports thing starts to feel way too elitist to me, and this just kind of
So culty, yeah.
It's culty. It's this kind of obsession with it happened where I live, and it's like, okay, so like you just coincidentally happen to live in the place where your sports team is winning. Like, who do you root for? Well, obviously I root for the place that's 10 blocks down the road.
Yeah, that's honestly the thing that turns me off. The politicalness of sports, it turns me off so hard. Like, the ref is obviously wrong because he made a call against our team, and we have to say that. Like, what? No, why can't we just use our eyes and see what happened? It drives me nuts that you have to be mad at the ref if he calls anything against your team, and be happy when he calls anything against the other team. I'm just like, use your brains.
It's anti-critical thinking, and you know how I feel about that.
Yeah, it makes it's impossible to watch sports, like, because my wife's family is big into sports, so I have to sit through sometimes, and it's just like, I hate this, but I love you guys.
Which is really funny that you have that, like, see, stereotypes don't always hold. Like, you guys have this gender flipped thing where, like, she's like the guy in the relationship at that point, right? We're like, she makes you watch the sports.
Yeah. Well, which I'm fine. I mean, it's still time with her, obviously.
Do you make her snacks?
I'm not a jerk. Like, I'm not like.
Is she like sitting on the couch watching football, and you have to go make her snacks? Does that happen?
Sometimes. I don't know. I can. I'm able to. But
this is the same mentality that drives me crazy in geek circles, of course, and with the whole like fan outrage culture thing, where we have to pick teams, and people get offended if you're at all critical of stories in movies that they want to see successful just because they're adapting things they like, or they go, well, I got invested in this Marvel thing, so no matter how bad the movies get, I'm not going to allow myself to see that. And again, you're entitled to your opinion. I'm not saying that has all gotten terrible and you're an idiot if you don't see it. I'm just saying that there are people that, even if the first thing they saw was a more recent movie that is arguably not as good as the first thing that came out, if that was the first thing they saw, they would hate it. But they love it now because they just decided they're going to. They decided walking in, these things are great and I love it. I can't get behind that kind of rationale. It bothers me. And just the picking teams thing, like folks that had that during when DCEU was still the Snyder thing and everything, where like we have to hate Marvel and love this, like almost no matter what it is. I don't understand that. I don't know where that comes from. And it feels like the sports team thing. It's like we have selected this as our team, and it's great because we've decided it is. And we hate you if you have, like, reasonable or otherwise, anything negative to say about it. I don't understand that. And I think that sets us back as a culture. I've always felt that way about it. I'm so soapboxy tonight, man. Like...
No, I'm totally with you.
I need to get a Bible out and thump it.
This is very surreal because I feel like I'm inside an archived GNN, because this was one of the very first GNNs I listened to you and Vince talk about, was where you were complaining about people who would come into work and be upset because they're just expected to be, and it's okay that they're upset and cranky all day because their sports team lost. And you said that. And you said in the podcast, like, people would not what if I came in and I was upset because a Star Trek episode was bad? Like, people wouldn't understand that. Like,
yeah.
And it's the same thing.
They'd say leave it at home.
Yeah, or it's a show.
Don't let it.
And it has no bearing on your life at all.
Yeah,
like it's
silly. It's grow up.
It's college kids. It's 18-year-olds in college. Like you're basing your happiness on a bunch of teenagers at a school that you just happen to go to. Like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah,
it's so weird. But I don't know. It's so inbred in people.
And so in the same way, it gets offensive to people when you say, this plot point in this movie doesn't make any sense to me, but you're supposed to like it. How's that work? And then why are you wasting your time watching people be critical of it?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
So that's more of what I have a problem with. I don't have any problem with, like, I'm not against, like, physical. I'm not like a nerd, so I'm against, like, physical activity or, like, athletics or anything. I like playing sports way more than I like watching them.
Sure.
But yeah, that is all the super chats, and we are preaching and rambling and all over the place. So I'm going to go back to some pre-written.
Yeah, we're also about 10 to 9. We started late because I had weird technical problems right at the beginning of the show. My apologies there. So we are probably going to wrap up in 10 minutes unless the Super Chats just pile up again. So I'm going to say right now, last call for Super Chats.
Okay.
If you think you have a shot at getting past TY and having a chat with me this weekend, if that's interesting to you. This is a thing that I've kicked around, making a Patreon perk, and offering it regularly is not a thing I can fit in my schedule. So I'm thinking, like, every now and again, I might throw this at you as just a fun thing to do for Super Chat incentive. But anyway, so yeah, just saw another Super Chat. Would you go to a pre-written first, and then we can do that one?
Yeah, sure.
While I conduct an invisible orchestra.
Yes, thank you, Bugs Bunny. Goofster123. What one-off Star Trek character would you have given a follow-up episode to?
Oh yeah, I want to say that Sarah and I even did a Treksperts back in the day on this very topic. There were so many characters and also species. I think we might have even done that episode that only show up the one time that you would have loved to have seen come back, or that had like an almost cliffhangery ending that suggested you'll see them again, and then they never show up again. My number one response to this has always been Berlinghoff Rasmussen from my favorite episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, which is called A Matter of Time. I'll spoil this real quick, but it's about and this is the reason that I love Matt Frewer. It turned me into a Matt Frewer fan, because he plays it. It was supposed to be Robin Williams. He couldn't do it for scheduling reasons or something, and then Matt Frewer picked it up, and he was amazing in it. And it's this comedic episode, but it's also a really good dramatic episode because it has Picard's absolute best speech. It's one of the funniest episodes and has one of the best, tensest, dramatic Picard speeches. Where he says, because it's a time travel thing about a guy who pretends to be from the future, but is actually from the past, and has stolen a futuristic spaceship that can time travel in order to go into the future. And this is a really fun premise, DJ. He goes into the future to various eras, he steals artifacts, and then he goes back in time and pretends to be an inventor, and he invents them, and then he changes the timeline, or he's planning on doing that anyway. And so he goes to the Enterprise under the pretense of being an historian from the future, just to like observe. He keeps saying, "I'm a fly on the wall," but then he keeps talking. And so he's stealing throughout the episode like tricorders and phasers and all this stuff that he's going to take back to the 22nd century and invent. And he gets caught by the end of the episode, and he sets his ship to automatically go back to the future, but they find out who he is before it leaves, so they detain him and his ship leaves. Now he's stuck in the 24th century, and they just take him to a star base, and they're gonna learn everything they can about the past from this guy that is probably going to just go to jail. And anyway, I love Berlinghoff Rasmussen. He's wonderful, and I always thought it was a huge misstep not to do a follow-up about that character in Enterprise, because Enterprise is a prequel that takes place in the 22nd century, and you could have done a cool, like, prequel Berlinghoff Rasmussen thing where you see whatever he was doing before he got the time ship. And, like, they did a show in that century. How did you not do a Berlinghoff Rasmussen episode? It's preposterous. They should have done it.
When you first announced that, I thought it was going to be like a moose. Like a moose species, or like a moose set of aliens, and
he's just got like a Russian last name or something. Rasmussen. It's like Rasputin or something.
Yeah. Well, Berlinghoff Rasputin is a person. I thought they were doing a play on that, but
maybe so.
But yeah. So while we were rambling, we fired up OAW Entertainment. He puts in a super chat. Okay, now I'm triggered. Michigan loses. UL Lafayette loses. Yeah. Even if the Saints lose, fine. It shouldn't ruin my day. But if my fantasy team loses too, but that's different because you're actually losing money. Maybe. Or you're losing a prize. I don't know. I've never played that.
I was going to say, yeah, I can't relate to this at all. I've never done the fantasy thing. But yeah, like if you've got a vested interest in it. And also, I'm not saying that with the podcast that DJ's talking about that I recorded all those years ago, I remember part of that and saying that. And when I say, and like I can't remain completely consistent, but I do remember saying that, and I will take up for my earlier self that said that, because it's kind of a twofold thing, or almost like contradictory feelings on it, right? I have seen really horrible Star Trek and been depressed about it, and you know what I mean. Just with that example, my problem is I'm with a lot of people that are obsessed with sports and treat sports, in my mind, very much like a lot of people treat fandom. It just becomes a.
You were more complaining about the inconsistency.
It's the inconsistency. It's that you have a double standard, right?
Yeah, that's the word.
So I don't think you should bring that to work, and I wouldn't bring the Star Trek thing to work either. But I also think, as much as I could help it, but if I'm like a little gloomy that day because my feelings got hurt, but I'm still doing my job and doing what I'm supposed to be doing, I think that's kind of understandable. Like, I'm not going to come in and like be a jerk to people or like complain about it and ramble about it. But if somebody's like, because you feel the way you feel, and people are entitled to their feelings, so if you're like, okay, you know, Cap, you don't, because everybody where I used to work at the mortuary called me Captain Logan. If somebody came up to me and was like, hey, you seem a little down today, I don't know if I would even tell them, because they would think that I was being ridiculous. But like, I might be like, Enterprise had the worst finale of almost anything I've ever seen, and we weren't getting any more Star Trek after that. It was hard to say if we ever would see another show. Yeah, it bothered me. It hurt my feelings. In the same way that you know, some of the Discovery and Picard stuff has really bothered me and kind of wrecked me to my core. And if somebody's sports team loses a huge game and they're done for the season, or it was their first shot in like 25 years at a major title or whatever, or trophy or whatever, and they didn't manage it, I get why you have feelings about that. I don't understand why that person, because it's not a nerdy thing, because it's a popular thing, because it's about sports, because it's about academia, ostensibly. I don't know why it did ostensibly with that, with air quotes, but like ostensibly. I don't know why you're entitled to those feelings, but I'm not. That's what I don't understand about it. So let's all be adults, but also, this is not me belittling you for having feelings about it. This is me not understanding why mine don't count. That's what I'm saying. It's all about what you're invested in. You don't have to understand why I give that much of a crap about Star Trek, in the same way I don't have to understand why you care that much about football. But don't pretend like you painting your face and holding up signs and screaming at a team, and then they lose and you walk away sad, is any different from me wearing a Starfleet uniform at a convention, and then the next week Enterprise ends a 17-year Star Trek run in the worst possible way it could, and I don't know if we're ever going to get more Star Trek again. And then, years later, when it does, it's also the worst thing ever. Yeah, I'm allowed to have feelings about that. And so are you. But don't act like we're different. We're the same. That's my point.
Just unifying people left and right. That's what Cap's all about. Yeah, it's the same thing. Because, like, how many people would be like, it's just a show, dude. Calm down. But then if you say it's just a game, like,
well,
it's not just a game.
Okay, well, neither do you. You don't get my investment.
Yeah, people are invested in different things.
And
I understand.
And I'm entitled to my investment.
I'm only telling you.
What you're basically saying at that point is story doesn't matter. And that's preposterous. At the point where you tell me that I'm a child because I care about fictional characters, there's no way you don't have a double standard about that. There's not a person on the planet that doesn't have a double standard about that if they say that.
Especially if you're comparing it to sports, which is actually a game.
Yeah.
Very strange. But honestly, I think...
But I'm not saying my thing's better than your thing. At all. I'm saying that we're the same. I'm saying that if you're and you've heard other people say this, of course. This is not my idea. But it's just true. Nerds are sports fans, and sports fans are nerds. Like, of course they are. And we can all take it too far. So again, let's be adults. But let's also not take ourselves too seriously. Like if you can wear your face paint, then I can wear a Star Trek uniform. Like let's not take ourselves too seriously.
I still think tribalism is more apparent in sports because you don't have people that like I only watch movies. Well, I guess you do, but not as often as like I only watch movies from this studio and then I don't watch anything else or whatever. Like, I don't think you have any. I don't think you have any sports fans that are like people who watch movies or just like I just like to watch any game that's on. I'll watch it. I'll give it a chance, even if it's like
no, they get invested in a particular team. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But OAW Entertainment, $2 super chat. Whoa, Cap. Geek feelings matter too. Yeah, that's all he's saying.
That's all I'm saying.
And then we got one more super chat from Ryder, $2. Can Harley Quinn cross over a reboot like Deadpool?
I don't know what that means.
Can Harley Quinn cross over?
Cross over into what? Okay, so I'm going to assume... Sorry, the way that's worded was very cryptic. I'm going to assume what he means is when the DCEU gets rebooted, like is what looks like is going to happen under Zaslav, he's saying, I think...
Oh, like Deadpool's coming to the MCU.
That's happening with Deadpool with the MCU.
And that makes sense.
I'm going to say... I'm going to predict right now it will. Because one of the only... really popular things with the DCEU overall has been their take on that character and that actress. So like I think you'll see Margot Robbie continue to play it, even though Birds of Prey didn't perform, because well. Also, I think that they're likely to keep going with some of the things that have worked, even though, as I've said 1,000 times, I'd love to see all of it start over, except for the Batman. But as far as the DCEU stuff. But you know that they're going to let, almost certainly, especially with the Batman continuing, I would imagine that they're going to let a sequel to the Suicide Squad happen, and she's in that. So, yeah, I don't think it would even necessarily be a Deadpool situation. I think one of two things is likely to happen. I think either they'll make that its own continuity, and whatever the 10-year plan is, if it's a shared universe, will be a brand new thing, or... they'll continue to be kind of vague about what counts and what doesn't, but they'll use very few things of, even less than they have been, of the former DCEU, and moving forward you'll see a couple characters here and there, and they just won't even really discuss what's come before. That's what I think will happen, but yeah. And like the Deadpool thing is different because they have to comment on it with Deadpool. And it's Deadpool and it's fourth wall breaking, and so he can make fun of the whole situation, and that'll work in his favor. But that is taking a character from a different franchise and putting it in a new franchise, and we don't know for sure that that'll happen with Harley Quinn.
Unless they literally make her like a Deadpool character, like has been done, which hope not.
I hope not too, but I would not rule it out. Brandon's here. We're about to do After Dark. Was that the last super chat?
That was.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end off things here. I apologize for my massive soapboxing tonight, but thanks for letting me vent. I actually kind of enjoyed that. Hope it wasn't horribly self-indulgent. I was Captain Logan, and this was DJ Martinez. We're going to go ahead and get going. After Dark will start in about 15 minutes or so. I'm going to try to give Austin a little bit of time to get back from work. DJ, are you going to stick around for a little bit, or have you got to get going?
I do have to run tonight.
Okay. No problem. Hopefully you can do it next time. But anyway, so me and Brandon and Austin will be on that show, and we'll see you in just a few minutes. Thanks so much for being here. Once again, I was Captain Logan. This is DJ Martinez.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Later on, folks.